In this video, I'm going to show you how to reset your nervous system and break free from survival mode in a few minutes a day. This isn't therapy, and it's not another mindset hack. It's a full body reset that helps you destroy stress, break bad habits, and even release stored trauma. Using the same system I use to teach leaders and high performers who look fine on the outside but feel fried on the inside. I've seen this process transform hundreds of lives. People who thought that nothing could help because they've tried everything. Therapy, medication, biohacking, you name it. And I'll show you exactly how to do it step by step. Here's the reality, guys. If your nervous system is stuck in survival mode, you need a full body reset. And since your therapist won't show you this, I'm going to show you the number one way to break bad habits, destroy stress, release childhood trauma, and reset your nervous and immune system for peak health. Here we go. So Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and we'll call it fate." Your vagus nerve is the same. And so what do I mean by that? Your vagus nerve is basically a way into your nervous system. And your nervous system is really what's driving everything, okay? It's what's behind your unconscious action. It's a primal, embedded pattern that was created through our experiences as children. And so until you learn to consciously control your behavior, your biology dictates your actions. And part of learning how to consciously control and taking control back is you have to understand what's going on in there. What is going on in our nervous system, and learning to work with it, not against it. Here's a simple way to flip the switch right now. When the nervous system is active, I call it like when the nervous system's on fire, overstimulated. We're in that fight or flight state, which is called the sympathetic state. There's some very useful tools that can help you to downregulate your nervous system out of fight or flight into what's called rest, digest, rest, and recovery, which is also known as your parasympathetic state. And that's where healing begins for sure, but it's also where we have clarity. It's where we can think big picture. It's where we are able to have perspective. And so one of the best things you can do, this is a great hack that's very useful to know, is that when you're breathing and your exhale is longer than your inhale, you're moving towards parasympathetic state. So if you take a 3-second inhale in and a 4 or 8 exhale out, you've now more than doubled the duration of your exhale relative to your inhale. And so simple thing to do would be a 4-second inhale with a 6 to 8 second exhale. A really great thing to do before eating, if you really want to absorb the nutrients you're about to eat, and that has a lot to do with this gut-brain axis. When we're in that fight or flight state, our digestive system is directly inhibited because we're not worried about digesting food. We're worried about running. Because a lot of time when we're in that sympathetic state, our nervous system being chased by a lion, which means we're worried about being eaten. We're not worried about eating. So digestion is shut down. And so one simple thing you can do is do this 4-second inhale, 8-second inhale, maybe 3 rounds before you eat. And you will be able to digest your food more efficiently and actually absorb the nutrients and minerals in the food. You could be eating the most perfect meal, but if you're in sympathetic state, you won't even absorb the benefits of that nutritious meal. Now, that being said, breathing does help, but it's a temporary fix or a Band-Aid, because as soon as you stop, the same stressors will snap you right back. And the only way to break free from survival mode and sustain parasympathetic activation is to escape these 5 traps, and that's what I'm going to go over in this video. So important. Yes, these breathing techniques are good. Yes, throwing cold water on your face are good. Yes, vagus nerve stimulation is good. All that stuff's fine. But it needs to be used as a means to get to the deeper causes, right? If we're dependent on these breathing techniques, if we're depending on vagal nerve stimulation, if we're dependent on, cold water on our face or whatever the supplement or, parasympathetic activation hack is, we're just treating symptoms. And so these 5 things I'm going to go over is without exception. Okay. I've been doing this for over a decade, implementing these very specific techniques. Without exception, one of these 5 things is going to be causing you your chronic stress loop. So number 1 trap are everyday open loops. Okay. And so open loops I define as problems that we haven't solved for. Okay. They're the micro stressors you're ignoring. I have other videos here on my YouTube channel that go into this in more depths. As a matter of fact, each one of these things. So take a look at my channel to see things on open loops and the 5 pillars of chronic stress, where I illustrate these things in a different way. But in this video, I want to just make sure you understand these 5 things. So these micro stressors that you might be ignoring, they're the 24, 25, 100 undone to-dos in your head, that awkward conversation that you're avoiding, the messages you haven't responded to. This is where getting this all out of your head, I call it the open loop dump. And you just basically get everything your brain is thinking about out on paper. And you write them down, and then you start to make decisions on what to attack and then take that first step. Again, I do have a video that goes through that whole process in detail on organizing your to-dos. But when you're constantly inundated with all these different things that you quote unquote have to get done right now, your nervous system is getting bombarded with all of these potential threats. And if you don't have a system to organize these threats and put them in a hierarchy of importance, then every open loop, every to-do is equally as dangerous as far as your nervous system is concerned, which is obviously not true when you sit down and actually look at them. Now, these 5 traps are just a start. I did want to just share really quick that I do a free consult and I do a assessment on these 5 pillars. This is really the key to the whole process because it's all in the assessment. And so if you're interested in scheduling a session with me where I can do an analysis and see which one of these 5 things may be the thing that's driving your chronic stress loop, when you're done with this video, make sure you click the link in the description and you can book a free consult with me. All right, number 2, primal open loops. So primal open loops go much deeper. And usually the primal open loops are fueling the everyday loops. And primal open loops all circle around the idea of, does my nervous system, do we feel safe? And this all goes back to childhood. It has to do with attachment and authenticity. Again, I go into that in some other videos on my channel. But in general, they sound like, I'm not safe if I slow down. I'm not worthy if I'm not producing. This is where we kind of get into what I call the survival masks. So we create these versions of ourselves to get the environment to accept us, to create this temporary feeling of safety. Like I said, it's formed in childhood, but now they run our adult nervous system. So a lot of times we may be in a 40, 50, 60-year-old body, but we're still operating with a 5-year-old nervous system. And this is really absolutely essential to getting to the cause, because identifying the belief, and then you got to question it, and then you got to rewire it. And that belief is what keeps me safe, what gives me the feeling that I'm worthy of love and acceptance. It's our core need that when not met, we don't feel safe at any time. All right, number 3 trap is your environment. Okay, I got to say, this is one that I feel like is overlooked a lot. Okay, you can't calm your body in a place that feels unsafe. All right, if I put you in a burning house and notice that you're a little anxious, maybe overwhelmed, scared, there's no meditating in a burning building isn't going to help. You got to get out of there, right? And so a lot of times we are in environments that we may be used to being in, right? Because here's the thing about our body is it'll adapt to any environment. Your body can adapt to a burning building if you wanted it to, right? Like obviously there's going to be a lot of side effects and problems to adapting to a burning building, but it will do it. The body adapts incredibly. And so many people, are in spaces, their jobs, certain relationships, okay, that the nervous system knows is not safe. That's maybe toxic or even abusive. A relationship, if you're in a relationship with a narcissist who's constantly gaslighting you, like this is a constant threat. That is worse than being in a building, being in bad relationships. It's a little more subtle, right? Especially when this person has influence on you and is convincing you that, they're not the problem, you're the problem. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had people come to me with digestive issues and hormone issues. And when I start to assess these 5 things, boy, number 3, there is an obvious problem or thing in their environment their nervous system is on fire about, but the individual has created some narrative in their mind to justify its existence. And I'm going to tell you, without facing the honest truth of what's going on, your nervous system will stay in fight or flight, okay? And you will be managing and coping with stress for the rest of your life. And obviously, toxic environments create so many problems, okay? And here's some of the things, like I said, narcissistic leadership, unhealthy work boundaries, gaslighting and poor interpersonal relationships, burnouts and career stagnation, exhaustion and gossip. If you're in the wrong group of people, guys, you might be in stress forever. Like, you have to understand there's a part of your brain that measures your hierarchy in a group. Okay. And so if you perceive you're at the bottom of the hierarchy of a certain group, your system will be stressed. Okay. So what determines your hierarchy in a group? Well, a lot of it has to do with your values compared to the group's values. I literally had a call with a client yesterday who was in a new job, and the women she was working with had a completely set of values than she did. Okay. I mean, this was not a great environment. Her values were, ownership, acceptance, compassion, understanding, kindness, etc. Like, those are the things she valued, and those are the kind of people she wanted to be around. Well, this group of women, that was not what they valued. Okay. That was not it. It was a very, very toxic environment. And so obviously she was so stressed, she was convinced she was the problem, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, yeah, no, you have to, when you try to fit in everywhere, you basically belong nowhere. Okay. And so this is a huge one here, because I see so many people trying to fit in to environments that they don't belong in. Right. And the analogy I gave with her on the phone yesterday was, she's a square peg and she's trying to jam herself into this circle hole. And she is beating the you-know-what out of herself because she's banging and banging and banging into this thing and trying to fit in. But she doesn't fit in there. That's not her place, okay? And until we own that, see that, and take action to get out of there, the system's not going to stop putting on its alarms, right? Negative and hostile communication, lack of supports, rewards and recognition, micromanagement, lack of autonomy. I mean, all these things, work, overburdens, and superficial expectations. Like, you gotta look out for these things, guys, because if you're in a chronic stress state and this is the environment and this is what you're surrounding yourself by, no meditation, no breath work, no supplement, no drug is going to change that. What it's going to do, all those things, is maybe numb all this communication so that the negative impacts of being in there, you won't even be connected to anymore. And worse than that is you'll actually be disconnected from yourself. Don't recommend it, to say the least. Trap 4, systemic stress. So this one basically has to do with, your hormones, your digestion, your metabolism, like basically all the things working systemically in your body. And it's a deadly loop, right? Because, when you're in chronic stress state, it has a negative impact on your systemic nature. And then that creates more stress. So it's kind of a nasty little loop here, but there are some things you can address, right? So the forgotten factor is your biology, and these kinds of things are relatively accessible to do something with. Like, you usually have some control or power over these three things, okay? Because poor sleep, blood sugar crashes, and no sun or movement, never getting outside, these are all physical stressors. So there may be some things that are stressful in your life right now. And I understand, like, when we're stressed, that our sleep, it can be worse. We have a tendency to maybe eat worse. We have a tendency to maybe drink more alcohol because we're stressed. And you know what I mean? Like sitting on the couch more. These things just feed the problem. And on the other side, like even with a perfect mindset, if we're not doing these things, well, we're still stressing the system. And so doing what you can to improve your sleep. Like, am I on screens until I literally pass out? Like, I watch TV, I'm staring at my phone, I'm checking emails until I'm exhausted, I go to sleep really late. Are there things that you can own and control to do something different, right? Do I eat anything that has a nutritional value to it? Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, maybe I can slow down before I eat just to make sure I'm getting the absorption of the nutrients. And did I get outside at all? Like, am I spending any time outside? Do I go on any walks? These are some simple, low-hanging fruit things that you can do to help with chronic stress. And sometimes when I have a client that's been in a chronic stress state for as long as they may have, we might have to start here because their hormones are in the toilet, the digestive system's trashed. And so while we're treating kind of, we'll call it the ultimate cause of what created this whole thing, we may have to do some things to address the systemic stress. And that's why I partner with a doctor. His name's Dr. Yoshi Ram. And we collaborate on some of these cases to make sure that we are addressing whatever the needs are to make sure we're moving forward in the direction that we're intending. All right, last one. Trap number 5 is mental focus. And so basically mental focus is like, what are you focused on? Like, what are you staring at? Are you obsessing over what you don't want? Are you looking at the obstacles everywhere? I had a client once come to me and she said, Matt, someone referred me to you. Okay, great. I said, what can I help you with? Like, what would you like to create with me? What is your goal here? And she said, I quote, and I'm not making this up. She said, I love you to help me work on my anxiety. And I said, that's so interesting that you put it that way. I said, well, how long have you been working on your anxiety? She said, 40 years. I was like, okay. And I said, well, it sounds like you've mastered anxiety. Let's work on something else, right? And that's a perfect example of she's been obsessing over her anxiety. That's all she's focused on, right? Focusing on what you don't want, right? Don't stare at what you don't want because you'll end up there, right? You got to start to teach yourself to focus on what you do want, okay? And your mind starts to look for the paths that lead to that. The other thing that's so important is you want to measure backwards. So many times we're trying to measure where we are with some ideal that we have in the future, some perfect reality in the future. That's not even really defined, by the way. It's just some kind of ambiguous target. And that is equivalent to trying to get to the horizon. If your goal is to get to the horizon, every day you're going to wake up and the only thing that's going to occur to you is that you're not there yet and that you're going to feel defeated. You're going to feel like you're not enough. You're going to feel like you're not doing enough. Like, you're always going to feel like you're in a place of lack. When you measure backward, you can start to name, hey, these are the things I did to move in the new direction. And remember, trajectory is more important than where you are in any moment. The question you want to ask yourself is, where am I headed? If I continue doing what I'm doing, where will I end up in a year, 5 years, 10 years? And if the answer to that is a place you don't want to go, then change your trajectory. Do anything different, okay? Because that tiny shift that I'm talking about changes everything. Changes everything. Trajectory changes everything. And here's why this matters. And so here's the significance of these 5 things, okay? And why all of these things are important, okay? Because if you only fix your mindset but ignore your body, well, you're going to stay stuck because you're not addressing a factor here. If you eat clean, but you keep lying yourself emotionally, you stay in that toxic environment, you still engage in that relationship the same way you have been with no boundaries, and you spend as much time there even though it's toxic and even though it stresses you out, well, guess what? You can eat the most organic food in the world. You're still going to stay stuck. Stress isn't a mindset issue. This is so important. It's not just about thinking positively and meditating and, all those things can have a place, right? But if you don't address these 5 things, you're never going to get where you're trying to go. These systems need full rewiring, and we've got to face the brutal truth of what's going on in these 5 places and start moving in the direction of solving these 5 things. So this is what I do. I work with leaders, parents, and high performance who come to me, and on the outside, they look better than fine, right? They're actually they're very successful. You know what I mean? They're doing a lot of the things, but they come to me and they kind of whisper to me, dude, I'm fried. I can't even tell you what's happening in my life, and no one would know it, right? Because they're high achievers, they're performers, they're mothers that have 4 kids, and they're running around, and they're on the PTA, and they're just doing all these things, and but they're fried, right? Because it's not sustainable, and we don't chase hacks, okay? That's the thing that is, like I say, kicks the can down the road. We got to repair the system, and those are, identity beliefs. We have to repair your nervous system, and we got to make sure your environment is healthy. Again, just one more time with the environment. If you took a beautiful flower, okay, and you put it in the wrong soil, that thing is going to die, okay? So it doesn't matter how perfect and beautiful the flower is. If you put it in the wrong soil, if you put it in the wrong environment, it doesn't thrive, okay? It actually will die. And this is what I'm seeing with so many people. You can't fix chronic stress with more willpower. And I know a lot of the people I work with, and maybe you watching this video, you probably have a lot of willpower. You probably have a lot of capacity to take on stress. One of your biggest assets is the fact that you can tolerate a lot of stress. But we have to also be real with ourselves and understand that it's not sustainable. Eventually we will break. What you need is nervous system literacy. And that's everything that I'm sharing with you here. The same way you'd learn a language to move to a new country, you must learn the body's language to stop it from screaming. And the way you stop it from screaming is understanding what it's trying to tell us. You really have to think about or understand that your body's on your team. Every communication, every sensation, every emotion, everything you're aware of that your body's communicating it's doing it because it's on your team. It's not doing it because it's trying to ruin your day. We got to start to work with the body and stop fighting it. This work has saved my life for sure. It's saved clients' marriages. It also saved mine, by the way. It restored health when doctors couldn't explain the systems. I would say that's true for me and my wife as well. It will work for you too if you stop treating stress like an emotion and start treating it like the system it is. I mean, this is just one example of someone who came to me, marriage was unraveling, and it wasn't because of a lack of effort. These people really, really showed an effort. They were in therapy and they were making an effort, but everything that they were being taught was just a temporary fix. It never really got to the root. And going through this process with them, this gentleman, he was a different person with his wife, his daughter, who was diagnosed with ADD, which is for another video, and even in his career. And going through these processes, at one point his wife moved into a hotel because they just needed a break. And I'm happy to report that their marriage is thriving. Their daughter is thriving. He's promoted at his company. It was at a Fortune 200 company, just got promoted to VP. So just one of many examples. So if you've tried therapy, meds, or meditation and still feel stuck, number one, understand you're not broken. Okay. A lot of the symptoms that you're having aren't signs that you're broken. It's actually signs that you're working. Okay. these signals that are coming from your body, you've just never been taught how to listen to them. And the signals aren't going to turn off because they're trying to help you. It's an alarm. It's like it's a smoke alarm going off because there's a fire and there's smoke, right? The alarm's not the problem. And really, we want this to end now. And so if you're still stressed after trying therapy, meditation, or self-care, like I said, it's because you've been solving the wrong problem. Most people never get this information. If you want the exact process to eliminate stress at the root, I will show you how. And like I said, I offer these 1-hour consultations where I help you break the stress cycle and turn it into fuel. And as of this recording, I have 7 spots left. When you're watching this, I may or may not still have that, but I'm offering these free consults right now. I've opened up some time in my schedule to connect with more people because I want to get this information out there to people because I'm seeing way too many people suffering unnecessarily. And so if you're interested in this, get your breakthrough by clicking on the link in the description. There's a qualifying questionnaire. Make sure that we're a good fit for each other. As soon as you fill out this questionnaire, it only takes 3 minutes. You'll be taken to my calendar. You can book a time and there's no charge. Okay. The only thing I ask is that you show up and you're ready to make some changes in your life. Like that's what's most important. And like I said, this approach has changed everything, not only for myself, but for my clients. And I've seen people break free from stress, burnout, and medications, reclaiming their energy, clarity, and purpose without big pharma solutions. And so here's what I want you to do before you go. Let me know, what's your biggest struggle related to chronic stress? What is it? Leave a comment on the video here. Let me know where you're at. Let me know what you're struggling with. I will personally reply with my thoughts, with some perspective, okay? And maybe even send you in a direction to check out this video or video on my channel that may help you. So please make a comment. Also, if you found this video helpful, if you learned something from this, please make sure you subscribe, like, share this video. It helps my channel get to more people because I really feel passionate about getting this information to people. I've suffered by trying to manage and cope with stress, and I've just have this information and I want to get it to as many people as possible. So I hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for listening.